Hey, what's up everybody? So today's video is going to be about Terence Crawford, and apparently Terence Crawford is either really dangerous or worthless. That's the title of the video. So let's get into it. So I had made a prediction that Terence Crawford ends up fighting Thurman due to the Spence Ugas fight. And then I also predicted, which is a little crazy prediction, but I also predicted Manny Pacquiao coming back. But I think Manny Pacquiao comes back end of the year or 2023 if he doesn't win. Or regardless, if he wins, I think he comes back for at least one more fight. Those are just my predictions. Recently I had said that Terence... that Terence Crawford ends up fighting Keith Thurman, and then I saw an interesting video where Fight Hype interviews Thurman, and Thurman says that he's been the WC's been checking his weight, and that they may make the fight a title eliminator. And whenever that happens, if they make a title eliminator, that means he would be the mandatory to fight Ugas Spence. Now let's see, Ugas Spence, I believe they fight somewhere in April. So after they would recover, after either of them would recover, that would leave a fight up to somewhere in September through December. And then I guess Ugas fights, depending on who wins, the winner. And 2022 is done, and now you're up to 2023. That kind of sucks for Terence Crawford, because he's not even in the mix, man. And this is what people are calling the pound for pound fighter, which he is talented, but he's not pound for pound. And is he worthless? Apparently so, because if he wasn't, people would try to be fighting him to make a lot of money. He'd be a huge attraction. So he is worthless. It's kind of sad, but has the same value as Jaron Ennis. And although he is talented, it's like they hyped him up and he never got his credit, but he always was avoided. No one ever wanted to fight him. So he's a high risk, low reward fighter. So is Jaron Ennis Boots, and it looks like Jaron Ennis is already fighting people that Terence Crawford barely beat not too long ago, like Delorme and the Mean Machine. But I'll get to that in a second. One of the other things that I came across a video from Blue Bloods, which I went ahead and clicked on, and it stated that Mauricio Suleiman had confirmed that Thurman would not be made the mandatory. And he got into a little bit on, I think he said something about Crawford having to fight, possibly having to fight Jaron Ennis or who is that, Virgil Ortiz. And he says that, but he doesn't think it'd be Virgil Ortiz because he doesn't like fighting him or his team. Either one of them don't like fighting good or quality fighters, which I thought was a little silly, because they both just fought guys that Crawford just fought. So that's kind of I don't think he realized what he was doing or saying, but that's a takeaway from Boots. And then that's a takeaway from Crawford if he says that, because he's right up there with with Boots, and who I mean is Virgil Ortiz. Jaron Ennis Boots looks he looks a lot. He looks more polished. Not even polished. He looks pretty the way he fights, man. He looks like he has a good IQ. Really, both of those guys, man. Virgil Ortiz is not fancy. He's just straight to the point. Now he's with the Canelo team, and that's gonna make him even more dangerous. Right now, I'm eyeing Boots as the better guy, but that could change at any point as they both grow. They're so young. One thing that was also stated is that I didn't know that Errol Spence, which is true. Thurman ducked Errol Spence, and but it's the tell, man. No one wants to fight the guy below him. Everybody's looking at the big payday. One time was looking at chasing Floyd and Manny Pacquiao payday, and now Errol Spence is he just doesn't need Thurman, man. He doesn't need Thurman. He doesn't even need Crawford. But it is really interesting that I didn't know that Errol Spence mentioned that if he had to fight Thurman, he would abandon his belts and move up, which is really, really, really interesting. Now, one thing that's hurting the sport right now is what Thurman did to Errol Spence is hurting him, because now there's bad blood and fighters are not fighting each other. And to be honest, Thurman's lost the momentum, and it's not that he's not good, it's just that he has become uninteresting for us as viewers. I think we've been spoiled with the high risk action and suspense. One of the people that we had two people that gave it to us. One that we wanted to see lose, and Floyd Mayweather. That, let's be honest, that's what was his main attraction. Everybody wanted to see him lose because he was obnoxious and he ran. We knew most of his wins came from running, and so we wanted someone. It's like an illusion. You'd even see him fight a sucky fighter because you wanted to see him, maybe someone get lucky and touch him, right? And then you had a guy that stood 5'5", fighting guys that are averaging 5'8" and up. And so now you have gentlemen in the welterweight division that are all 5'8", 5'8" to 5'10", and they don't want to fight each other. And the second that it gets competitive, everybody takes a hike. Who do I mean? I mean Porter. Porter quit on Crawford, which didn't allow us to see what Crawford would made out of. And Danny Garcia, he's inactive and has quit. He's not going to come back to fight a Jaron in his boots or Virgil Ortiz. He wants a big pay-per-view fight. Boxing is taking a dip, man, because right now we have Thurman versus Barrios at a pay-per-view of $75. That's really not worth it unless you're a YouTuber that's streaming this for views. You got two things that happen there. Either you watch the fight to see if Thurman can take this guy out quicker than even if he takes him out quicker than Gervonta Tank Davis, Thurman's still a welterweight, so he would have to get him out way earlier than that, at least a round earlier, just to be on the same page. And then Barrios, if he beats Thurman, then that just means Thurman's done. Or if he even goes to decision, if that fight goes to a decision, that means Thurman shouldn't even be fighting professionally, honestly, regardless of him being back. And I do believe that he is probably Thurman. If Thurman's not trying to fight Terence Crawford, he probably is eyeing a payday of some sort. He's gonna, kind of see where. I mean, everybody thinks like that. They're trying to get the most value for their lasting professional days, I guess. But for people to not fight, the last decent fight we got is Manny Pacquiao versus Ugas, which was not good because these fighters are going into fights for paydays. Manny Pacquiao didn't cancel the fight, and his calves were messed up. So either that's a really shitty excuse, but I mean, we got the viewers get screwed at the end of the day, or the sport. Really, it's the sport. And now 2022 doesn't, and the welterweight division hasn't had a good fight. And I mean, I'm sorry, 2021 they really have a good fight, and 2022 is going to have the Ugas Spence fight, which I think is going to be mediocre. We really missed the suspense, and when we see these fights, we kind of know who's going to win. We know Errol Spence is going to win that one, even though some people may say that Ugas may. I'm sorry about that, but Ugas may edge him, and then he's avoiding Crawford, and then Spence is avoiding Crawford, which just really isn't fun at this point if you're a boxing fan. Which I know the word casual gets thrown around, but I mean, casual boxing fans are the ones that make the sport, because if you're a diehard fan, there's no way you pay for these fights. There's just not enough activity with top competition. There's just a whole lot of build-up, and then everybody wants to make 10 million off of a fight. And I kind of get why, because you want to fight. You want to fight someone. You want to fight people that you can edge or win, until you can just stop fighting when it comes down to being competitive fights. And that's what Danny Garcia and Porter did. They saw these bigger guys, and Virgil Ortiz and Jaron Ennis come in, and they said, we're out. We no longer want to compete. And I think one of the other things that makes welterweight the division uninteresting is Errol Spence and Crawford stand 5'9" for Errol Spence, and Crawford at 5'8", and if the undefeated if that was Manny Pacquiao back in the day, and he was standing at 5 if he was standing at his 5'5" that he's at, I think Crawford would have taken that fight. Crawford is an example of what happens when you get ducked, and Crawford's ducking boots. Exactly what's been done to him, and it ruined him. So I think he should just bite the bullet, beat Boots, but not fight. Beat Boots just for the hype. If he doesn't fight him, let's be honest, it's because he can't beat the guy. He doubts himself that much. I think he just recently came out and said that Keith Thurman came back to fight Barrios because he doubts himself. He doesn't believe in himself. Same thing with Crawford. Thurman's not trying to fight Crawford in 2022. He's trying to fight. He's trying to look for those other guys. And this he's trying to fight once a year, one time. That's why his name's One Time. It's not a big deal. That's just how he wants to treat his body. That's probably how much time it takes to recover, and he doesn't want to end up injured again. Everybody knows their body, but Terence Crawford. See, the difference is Keith Thurman. He's gonna milk it, and he's like, I get in where I fit in, and that's where he's acting. I get in where I fit in. If I make it if I make it to the higher higher end of the boxing welterweight division, then I'm gonna go for it. If I end up if Crawford's my last resort, Crawford, there's not a lot of. That's the thing. There's no money with Crawford. Back to what I'm saying. I just landed at what I was thinking, without even thinking about it. There's no money in Crawford. Why doesn't he want to fight him? He's the equivalent of Spence, but he doesn't want to fight him. Zero money. So Crawford at this point is still worthless in his career. And there's a lot of hype with Boots because Boots is being crowned the next guy. He's only beat Delorme and a few other guys that he's been kind of hand-fed to slaughter. But back to what I say, who is it? Floyd Mayweather at 36 years old fought a 22-year-old Canelo. Terence Crawford at 34 would be fighting Geronimo Boots at 22. So everything he's complaining about that's happened to him, he's trying to do to Boots and suppress him. And Crawford's time already ran out to be a Crawford's not gonna make it to be a cash cow. That's out the door. That's Errol Spence already. That's who they have. And there's just not going to be two cash cows. I just don't think so. And Floyd was trying to get Crawford under his marketing company, but Crawford didn't go for it. And like I said, if Floyd fights you, go for it. If he doesn't, what's the point? If he can fight you one time, win or lose, either you make a shitload of money, or he passes the torch on to you, and he literally actually, if that happens, if he fights you and you win, he literally passes the torch on to you. He'll never do it because he'll never tarnish his record, and he only talks about helping black fighters, but he doesn't want to help a black fighter. He just wants to talk about it on national television in front of reporters. So he's completely full of shit, in my opinion. I mean, to be honest, I'm a little bored with the welterweight division. I'm used to seeing a 5'8", natural 100, a guy that probably belonged at 135, whooping on welterweights or competing against welterweights, because when he got to welterweight, it's not like he was just knocking people out, but he was winning, and that's the even Mayweather was already fighting Cotto and different people at different weight divisions. This welterweight crowd, they're just waiting. He's waiting for payday at welterweight, and he wants it to come to him. I mean Terence Crawford, and that's not really exciting anymore for anyone. He's just gonna sit there and just he's just waiting, growing old, I guess. Where as viewers, if you're a someone that's been watching boxing and loves boxing and comes from that viewpoint, experiencing that, you're looking at the welterweight division and you're like, you're not impressed, man. You got okay, so Crawford, if you were Manny Pacquiao, that means that you would be fighting guys at least 5'11". You'd be fighting guys at 5'11", and in order to do that, to fight a guy that's fighting 5'11", you would have to go up in weight, and you'd be fighting the Charlos. And I made a video about that. I don't know. He's pretty much. It's pretty much sad, man. That, you know, a lot of these guys. Spence mentioned that he'd go and fight at a higher weight class. He'd move up to, I believe, what's that, 147, 160, 165, something like that. But the only reason that Spence doesn't do it, because unlike Crawford, he's got value and he can milk the welterweight division because he's got fans. He can probably go through. He's going to be the A side in the Ortiz fight. He's going to be the A side in the Thurman fight. From what I hear, he's not going to fight Thurman. And if he did fight Thurman, he'd probably take a 90-10 split, and Thurman wouldn't take it. Thurman can forget about it. Thurman's going to end up with Crawford, which is going to be Crawford's not going to be able to collect any type of value from that fight because Thurman's been so inactive, and because he lost to Manny Pacquiao, even though he was hurt. He probably wouldn't have lost to Manny Pacquiao. I think he would have probably drawn or won by a short decision, but it would have been really close if he wasn't hurt. But I think he probably would have edged him a little bit. Let's see, man. I just don't see. I don't see what Crawford has. I think. I made a video and it says Crawford retiring, and I think Crawford's going to end up in that Porter, Danny Garcia state where all of these guys that were a little bit better than them came in, that were just a little too competitive. And they said, I don't want to try. I don't want to take on the because he's at a point where he's still not making a killing, and the competition's right below him. Boots is like the mandatory or number one WBA, I believe. Is it WBA? I'm not sure, but I believe it's WBA or WBC. I'm sorry. I'm not even sure, but he's right there at number one on one of the belts. And then you got Virgil Ortiz that just beat the Mean Machine, and I think he gives Crawford a run for his money. So if you're really smart, you would realize the skill level. The skill level Boots already has attained. He doesn't have the experience. The toughness, size, and grittiness Virgil Ortiz already has, and I think he can hang in there with Crawford, because he's Crawford's only 5'8", and you got Virgil Ortiz at 5'10". He's pretty strong. He's pretty big, and from what I hear, he's pretty strong. I think Mean Machine stated that he hit harder than Crawford. So, I mean, if you factor in all of these little things, they just they really add up. And what it really does is it's a takeaway from Crawford, because Crawford he's not that huge gap. He's the gap's closing is what I'm saying. Is he resourceful? Is he can he switch? Yeah, he can switch, but these guys, they have their own set of tools and youth, strength, and ability that kind of narrows that freaking gap, man. Crawford's not, he hasn't been an attraction. And because these guys are getting momentum, I think that attraction that he has gotten is going to level out with Boots and Ortiz, and ultimately it's just going to I think that's what he's probably just going to retire, like I stated earlier. I think his pride's going to get in his way, and he's not going to want to take a fight with these guys. And the reason is because he got screwed, and he's going to be like, I didn't wait all of this. And see, that's the whole Floyd thing happened. And all of these black fighters, they praise Floyd and they talk about Floyd, how he made this. He didn't help anyone. He didn't help you. He didn't fight you. If he didn't fight you, he didn't help you, because you ain't got none of that money. And he wanted to sign you, but he wouldn't fight with you. So what's the point? If I'm going to sign with Floyd, I'm like, hey, give me a fight. He's like, nah, I'm retired. I'm like, all right, peace. I'll see you later. Pass down the torch to one of your black fighters, and then I'll start respecting Floyd for at least showing some love to the black community, because now he's just talking, man. He's full of shit. He didn't pass the torch down to no one. Julio Cesar Chavez was had a bunch of scar tissue. He fought De La Hoya. He's old. One of his last fights, he passed the fucking torch. He knows he's gonna lose that fight. He passed the freaking torch to De La Hoya. Why would he not just fight a guy like Floyd fought? I forget his name. A guy that he guaranteed is gonna not that has zero chance of beating him. He didn't do that. He fought a Hispanic fighter, so he passed the torch down to De La Hoya. Exactly like Floyd. Floyd could have done the same thing, but his pride didn't allow him. And now he's trying to market when he's done zero for the community. He didn't even help I forget his name, but I forget his name right now, but yeah, that wraps it up for this video. Please like and subscribe. Make sure to leave any comments. But yeah, if you agree with me, Terence Crawford is pretty much done. Next 2-3 years, I don't really see him doing much. Next 2-3 years, that's Virgil Ortiz and Boots' territory. Errol Spence will probably not be fighting the next 2 years. I think he'll try to win all the belts and probably retire pretty early. He's not going to have a long career. But yeah, please like and subscribe, guys. Thank you.